Hi, everyone. I'm Amy.
Hello, I'm Audrea.
This is the Red Crowd. So grab a cup of coffee.
Or a cup of tea.
Maybe a little something on the rocks. And let's get started. What was that, Audrea?
Today I have smoothie. It's not tea.
Oh,
That's why I have.
hey, whatever. Like, I could have something in here besides coffee.
That's right. Whatever it takes.
I mean, I don't. You can't see it, but I don't. I have coffee. But
Today we are talking about atomic habits. Last week we talked about tiny habits, tiny atomic. But today we're talking about James Clear's book. I read his book first, not many years ago, a few years ago when it first came out. And I think we talked about it on one of our 3 years ago. I think we talked a little about it.
probably. Yeah. And it's an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. I have lots of sticky tape.
I see.
So this one is about tiny changes, remarkable results. James Clear. I've been in multiple in-person book clubs with different people on this book. It's changed a lot of people's lives. So I really like it. I know that sounds weird, but I really like it. So let's see here. Let's see where we're gonna start. He has laws. He has laws of habit. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Kind of goes with SMART goals, where you make it specific, make it measurable, like it goes through that whole thing. He does start with a little bit about himself and how he got started. And then we move into the fundamentals, why tiny changes make a big difference. And just like the last book we just talked about, it does start with, you have to start small because our brains, most of our brains, don't work in the way that you want to make a change and you make a big change and you just automatically can do it. There are some people that can, and good for you. I am not one of them. Are you one of them, Audrea?
Not usually.
No. I think, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I had a friend who had a very bad habit. Not to be judgy, but I'm judgy. She was a smoker. And I'm not a smoker. And actually, I have allergies to the smoke. So we went on a road trip. And she rolled the window down. We did our best. She took smoke breaks. And we went all the way to Hawarden, Iowa, to a quilt shop. And she got to Iowa to that stop. How many hours was it? Was it 10, 12 hours? She got there and she looked at me and she said, "You know what? I've decided to quit smoking." I'm like, "What?" I mean, why couldn't you decide that 12 hours?
You're a little light.
And from that day forward, she has never smoked again. It was the most bizarre thing. She said, "I'm quitting smoking today. It's it." I don't know if she looked at me turning green, almost perishing, trying to ride with her to the car. I bet. But that's the only person I've ever known who did like a cold turkey, I'm going to do it, and never smoked it again. But most people
So
do it.
I know my sister, my younger sister was a smoker. Whenever she got pregnant, she could cold turkey. But as soon as she had her baby and she was done feeding and all that stuff, she would go back to smoking. My brother, during one of his deployments, he cold turkey quit. But then he came home and the stress of home and what happens to all veterans, you were living stuff. He picked up smoking again. So he was able to, and now he wants to, and he can't. I'm not living with that. But yeah, so there are the rare person.
To each their own.
And that's great. I am not that person. I need tiny steps. I think it's interesting that his thing is 1% better every day.
Mm-hmm.
He does point out that you could also go 1% worse every day if you duplicate that.
Yeah. I've done
So develop good and bad habits the same way. one step at a time. And your choices, he points out, choices determine the difference between who you are and who you could be. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformation.
Mhm.
You gotta start with the little. He also says, you've got so many of these things. He also says, you should be far more concerned. Sorry, I really like this book.
I'm sorry, I just need to stop you just for those of you who watch all of our videos, you will notice a marked difference in Amy's behavior and attitude toward that book as opposed to that tiny habit. Now, on the other hand, we're very different people. I read this book first, and I really like Atomic Habits and I used Atomic Habits to start my 5 a.m. workout. But I really like BJ Fogg's, Dr. Fogg's book. But Amy is just like gushing over Clear's book. Like, oh my goodness. And the way he put the words together. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go on. It's just funny.
Okay. So, like I was saying, he says you should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than your current results. So, where are you going? Not where are you at? Because where you're going is much more important. So, say smoking. You're standing outside smoking a cigarette right now, and you're thinking, I want to quit. That's fine. It's in your brain. You want to quit. You're trying to find a way to quit. Maybe you've cut down. Doesn't matter that you're still smoking. It's that you're headed towards
Which is
your
good.
end result of quitting. He does a compounding chart. It's a compounding chart. It goes over positive and negative compounding and what that looks like. He does also talk about what progress is really like. And something that I've heard from multiple places, and I don't know if I've heard it from multiple places because they heard it here, or this is just one of the places that I've heard it. Change can take years before it happens all at once.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is cool about developing a habit, whether it be positive or negative, is that when you are developing the steps to create that habit, you don't realize you're really doing the thing until later. You no longer think about whether or not you have to get your journaling time in or whether or not you've done your 3-mile walk. Because yes, of course you did. It's part of your day now.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen overnight. And you're not going to realize it happens overnight. It's like changing. Sometimes I've seen demonstrations where they've done like a color fade where you don't even realize the color is getting darker or brighter
Oh, yeah.
because they're doing it so slowly. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, was that always dark? No, it wasn't. But because it was slowly changed, you just didn't notice the change. Or like when you lose weight. Hey, look at myself every day. I don't notice,
Right.
plus or minus, except how my clothes fit. You run into someone you haven't seen in a year and say you've lost 15 pounds. They're like, oh my gosh, have you lost weight? And you're like, maybe I did. Did I lose weight? Because we don't see it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah. And like with writing, I started writing or wanting to professionally write years ago. It was like 2013. It was a long time ago. But it's not, that's only 10 years. It's not a long time ago. It's only 11 years. But anyway, it took me a long time to get to the point where when I look at my writing now, and then I look at my writing back then, there is a huge difference. And
yeah.
that huge difference took tiny steps, like learning about conflict and learning about how to write a sentence to keep people turning the page and learning the different genres and the genre expectation and learning not to backstory dump into a story. So it takes all those little things add up to what I hope is good writing. But I know it's a much
Sure,
and it worked.
excellent. Yes. And like you said, it's better than it was.
Yes.
But it's a small progress toward. He also, and this is something that Audrey and I discussed when we were talking about this book, doing it. Goals are about the result you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. And then for me, I added habits are the ways that you develop your systems to reach your goals. And I'm sure it's in here. Smart habits, like make sure that it's attainable. If you want better results, forget about setting goals, focus on your systems instead. 100% agree with this.
Yes.
If you do not have the right system in place, the goal is just going to sit there. You've got to have your systems in place that take the steps towards reaching that goal. I can say I want to lose 35 pounds this year.
Yes.
But if I don't have the systems in place that are going to help me reach that, it's not going to happen. And if I don't develop the habit that will help me complete my system, it's not going to happen either. I'll get to the end of another year. I literally am the exact same weight I was at the beginning of last year. The exact same weight.
You and me both, sister.
That was not the plan. However, I did not have anything in place, nothing front of my face, nothing that I looked at every day to remind me that this was my goal.
Right.
And that's what he goes into.
And before we move on, there were no systems. Like when you started building your house and you took like 18 months off of writing, you didn't have any systems in place or habits that were helping you with systems so that you would keep writing so you could make writing progress.
Right. Yeah. Which I would be published right now if I had, but I didn't. So when it started to look like it was never going to happen, then I just said, I just don't have time for it. And I moved it aside. Yeah. If I had had the habits and the systems in place, then the goals would have been reached. Yeah. Right. And that's what it is. And he says that you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. I have nothing to add to that.
That's a mic drop.
We can just stop talking about it.
No. What's that, Corinne? Go buy the book.
Yes. All right. That was chapter 1. Do you have anything to add to chapter 1?
No, I don't have anything to add to chapter 1. I really my little bit on chapter 2 before, because I know you're going to be detailed. Chapter 2 is how your habits shape your identity and vice versa. I found that so profound. That just when you think about it, your habits are what make you who you are. And one of the examples he gives is each time you write a page, you are a writer, and you just need to keep stacking page upon page upon page to become a novelist or memoirist or poetess or poet. And then do the steps, have the systems for publishing, systems for marketing to be a successful author. And I really liked the quote he says it's a 2-step simple process for identity. If nothing changes, nothing is going to change, is the quote I highlighted. But it's a 2-step process. Decide the type of person you want to be, then prove it to yourself with small wins. Sort of like Fogg said, celebrate with every tiny thing that you do.
I literally wrote down when we were discussing that book. I know this is going to sound silly and it's going to freak my dogs out, but a thing that could be cool is if you get party blowers.
Oh, yeah.
And every time you celebrate a win, you go, that's a good
idea.
Because I thought we could take confetti. I'm like, I'm not cleaning up confetti. But you could do party blowers. That would be something fun. That would be,
we should do that.
And then your whole house would know that you did something cool because the party blower went off.
That would be awesome. I'm going to have to get that just for when I finish editing an episode.
What? Okay, so he says that many people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. This leads to outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. So it's not about developing my 3-mile habit. It's about seeing myself in the mirror the way I did 10 years ago when I was at my goal weight. I want to become that person that I'm not ashamed when I put on a certain piece of clothing and I look at myself in the mirror and I go, oh, yeah, that was the donut I ate yesterday. You know, I was going to bring up donuts.
That was a good
So
What page is that one on? Because I'm on page
it's
30.
on my page 31.
Okay.
It
Yes.
looks like this.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's okay to have either one. Like it's fine. Whichever one. Is it about who you're becoming or is it about what you're doing? And you can have both. Like it's not either or. And one's not good and one's not bad. It can be both. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. Like when I was training for the dopey a couple of years ago before I shot out my ankle, I was a runner. I identified as a runner. Now I'm having a hard time getting 2 miles in every day, walking, right? That was who I was. I was known as the runner. I'm not anymore because my habits have changed, and that's okay.
So
The
I'm
more yeah, go ahead.
interrupting for just a second. I hope if you got the book, if you are part of the right crowd, then you get the list of the books that we are doing early. So I hope you have your highlighters out so you can highlight the good part that you have not already. Because this is the right crowd book club. And so that's what we're doing, book club. All right, go ahead.
Okay. The other thing I want to point out in this is self-talk. And he talks about it here. If you tell yourself that you can't resist donuts, that you're fat, that you're never going to reach your goal weight, that you're never going to get the number of pages that you need on the page, that you're never, and everything that you're telling yourself is negative, negative is what you're going to get. There's nothing in what you're telling yourself that is motivating you to change, then you're not going to change. You have to change your self-talk. Yes, we refer to it as fatastic in my house. Yes, that is where I am at the moment, even though it may not look like it on the screen. This is not the way I want to be, right? And yes, I know that there are some people that if they were to look at my body type and my weight, they will be like, oh my gosh, if only, right? Because everybody's in their different journey.
Yeah.
But if I keep telling myself that and I don't start visualizing myself in the cute dress that I want to wear for my anniversary in July, and all I do is think about how fat I am, there's no motivation there. And if all I think about is how fat I am, then I am going to keep eating the donut because I'm fat anyway. What's it matter? If I change my thought processes to I eat healthy, I walk so many miles a day, I'm going to look good in that dress, right? Then when I think about the donut, then my thought is, can't get into the dress if I keep eating the donut. So you've got to change what's going on in your head.
What I really like what he said on page 34, and that's what I used when I started writing. It says, one of the improvements are only temporary until they become part of who you are. And so 3 examples he gives. One of them is the goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. In my case, the goal was not to write a book. My goal was to become a writer and an author who publishes books. So not just write one book. That was not my goal. I did that, but to become an author who wrote good books and they got purchased and good reviews. Okay.
To go along with that, he also says the process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. Build the habits of the person you want to be, the future you. It could be the future you tomorrow if you started the habit today. And what does that habit look like for you? Okay. I like also that at the end he does, so Fogg, BJ Fogg, at the end of his, he went through all of his charts and everything, gave you everything at the end of his chapters. I like that at the end of his, he gives you a chapter summary.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you're telling a story, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. And that's what he did. He tells you what he told you. So if you want a Cliff's Notes version, This is it. Right?
Yeah.
This is it. And if you're like, oh, wait, I want more information about that, then go back and read that chapter. Right. So some people, this is going to be daunting. They're going to look at this book and they're going to be like, that's a lot of words. Right. And that's okay. Go to your chapter summary. If it's a chapter you think you want, go back and read that chapter. So I like that he does that at the end of all of his chapters. And then he has 4 simple steps for building better habits. And of course, there's the chart. Oh, look, there's a reward. Okay, there's a chart, and it's the science of how habits work. And it's a cue, a craving, a response, a reward. You have to have the cue. The cue triggers your craving. The craving will trigger what you do. And then what you do leads you to your reward, whether that's a party blower, whether that's you doing a little happy dance in your office, or whether in the long run, it's me putting on that. This is not something you know about me. The purple dress that I bought 22 years ago to wear during my honeymoon that I could not fit into by the time I got married, that I've never been able to wear for my husband.
Oh,
That is my goal. I still have it. It is now vintage because, I'm older. That is my goal this year, is to be able to put that dress on for my 22nd anniversary in July.
wow.
That's the goal, right?
Right.
That's what I have to keep in mind whenever I have other cravings. The feeling, which is the craving for me, the feeling of what I'm going to feel when I'm in that dress has to overpower how good I know that parlor donut tastes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I have to get. My next step is to find it in all of my storage stuff, because I haven't unpacked my clothes yet, and hang it up so I have a visual in front of me of the dress that I want to wear in July. Okay. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. I want to be happy about the way that I look, and I have to develop the habits to get there. There's a habit loop, which we just talked about. You have your cue, your craving, your response, your reward, you're back to cue. So say I get into that dress, right?
Mhm.
I've reached my final end. What's going to be my next cue to keep me there? Am I going to be like, okay, I fit the dress, cool, I reached my goal. Where's the donut? Right? Or am I going to be like, okay, that was cool, let's keep going. Okay. And it actually gives you some examples. It gives you a chart. Here's your chart. He gives you a chart. Goes through the 4 laws of behavior change, which is the part of making it obvious, making it attractive. He also gives you the 4 laws of breaking a habit. He goes through that, which is the same thing. If you want to make a habit, you got to make it easy. If you want to break a bad habit, you got to make it hard. Right?
Right.
I know, because of where I live, and it takes forever and a day to get anywhere, that if I eat before I leave to go grocery shopping, and if I go a different direction, I won't pass my favorite donut shop, and it'll be harder for me to go there. And if I can't get there by 5 o'clock, I can't get there because it closes. So I have to make it difficult to get to that place at an opportune time in order for me to break. Okay. Anything for you on that side?
No, this is what I used, his how to create a good habit, what I used to start my 5 a.m. workouts. So the first cue is that make it obvious. I put my gym clothes in the bathroom. So when I woke up at that time of day, they're already in the bathroom. Make it attractive. I would give myself protein smoothies and that I liked at the end of a workout. So that was attractive for me. And there were, when I was doing the high cardio workouts, I actually like the feeling like runner's high. You get a runner's high. I would do that on an elliptical. I would get that high. And I probably
Oh,
put that back into my
I don't do elliptical.
and easy because the gym clothes are right there and I put them on and I actually had to baby step it. So just putting the gym clothes there was one thing. So they were there and it made me feel guilty not to put them on if I didn't put them on. And then finally, okay, I have to put them on even if I don't go to the gym. And I felt guilty for walking around in gym clothes and not going to the gym, but then also make it satisfying. And I have a workout partner and we meet and we basically think we're hot stuff because we just showed up at the gym at 5 in the morning or 5.
I like it. I
Anyway.
like it. So in Tiny Habits, he did his whole after I do this, then I will do this.
Mhm.
So here is James Clear's version of that. It's
Same.
the same thing, but it's not the woo-woo part that I don't have a problem that I have a problem with. So it's just the habit plus whatever equals whatever, right? So
It's the same thing, Amy.
it's the same thing. That's what I just said. I said it's the same thing. It's just presented differently, which
Yeah, that's true. That does make a difference. It makes a huge difference.
he also says, which I think is good, is that there are no good or bad habits. There are only effective habits. So a habit is what you repeat, and they're both going to be effective. So do you want a positive effect or a negative effect? And that's what you need to think about. He then goes on to the best way to start a new habit. And this is the whole plan and systems that we talked about. No behavior happens in isolation. Each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior.
Mhm.
So yours was putting your gym clothes in the bathroom. For me, it's setting them out on my dresser at night. So before I go to bed, I set them out on my dresser. I get up in the morning. What do I see? My gym clothes on the dresser. Okay. I grab them as I'm putting the dogs out and I stop at the bathroom and put them in the bathroom. Right. That's how it all works for me. Now, when I go to the bathroom, after I put the dogs out, I see my gym clothes. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was going to put those on. And as long as I have them on, then I remember that I'm going to take a walk.
Yeah.
Because why would I put on these clothes? Because I'm not one to walk around in yoga pants all day. I find them uncomfortable. So why would I put these on if I wasn't going to go for a walk? And I'm not going to wear them all day and get them dirty for no reason. Like that's how my brain works. So I've now put them on, which means, oh, right, I'm taking a walk. Right. So it's the same cues. It's just we do them differently. I mean, it's the same
Same thing.
It's the same. If this, then this. It's the same thing. And it does. Everything you do is going to cue the next thing, whether it's good or bad. Eat the donut, cue the, oh my God, I ate another donut. Don't eat the donut. I get to blow party favors. I should put one in my car for every time I pass a donut shop that I don't sell it.
You should. That would be funny.
All right. Need to talk faster. So we're on environments often matters more. And this is the one where remove the thing so that it's not easy, right?
Right.
Or put the thing in so that it is. It's about setting your cues and making sure that the right cues are what you see and the other cues you don't.
Right.
Or
You want
it's harder.
add friction for the bad habits, make it harder, like you said, and then remove it for the good habits.
Mhm. Then he goes into self-control, and it's about creating a disciplined environment. When I was a nanny, I had a dad come up to me, not a child I took care of. His child would not have liked me. I'm just going to say that. He wanted to know how to get his daughter. She refused to eat the dinner, no matter what they gave him, because all she wanted was the ice cream. And I was like, stop buying the ice cream. He goes, what do you mean? Don't put it in the house. Remove it. She won't have a choice. Make the ice cream a special treat you go out for on special occasions. Not an every day I get to eat ice cream instead of dinner. He looked at me like I had just solved the unsolvable equation that people have been trying to figure out for hundreds of years.
Oh my goodness.
But it's the same thing. Move it out of the way. You want to eat better? Stop buying crap. Make it a special occasion to go out. Don't put it in your house. And then, of course, we got the chapter summary again. He also, at the very end of this one, the self-control, he says, rather than make it obvious, make it invisible. And that's how you break the bad one. And then, yes, we have a chart.
We have charts.
We have a chart. I like his charts because he talks about he highlights what he just talked about, but he also tells you where he's going. And I like that.
And one thing about his charts, once you buy the book or the audiobook, you get a link to there are printables on his website. So you get all the charts, the habit loop, checklists, and things on his website, which is nice.
And then in the next law, he talks about, which I had never thought about until I read it in his book. He says it's the anticipation of the reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets your dopamine going.
Oh, yeah.
Because think about it. You're motivated because you know you're going to get it. Once you get it, where's the motivation? Right. You got to give yourself another step to achieve in order to keep the motivation going. So it's the process of that keeps you going, not the actual reward itself. Talks about he goes into the role of your family and friends, which I'd like to point out can either hurt or help you.
Mhm.
And if you have friends that are not helping you reach your positive goals, you might want to look at your tribe a little closer.
I don't know.
That's all I'm going to say about that. He talks about cravings in the next chapter, where they come from, how to program your brain to enjoy things. And then at the end of that one, he says the key to finding and fixing the cause of your bad habits is to reframe the association you have about them.
Mhm.
It's not easy, but if you can reprogram your predictions, you can transform a hard habit into an attractive one. Here's my example for that. I love me some sweet tea. Good sweet tea is just love it.
Yeah.
However, in recent years, sweet tea causes me to have a headache. And I could never remember that until I would drink the tea. And then my husband would go, that's why you have a headache, because you had tea. So I had to reassociate sweet tea, not with, oh my gosh, that's so good, with I'm going to have a horrible headache in about 2 minutes after I start drinking this tea.
Mm.
So I had stopped drinking the tea because I had transformed how I think about sweet tea. If I think about sweet tea, literally the next thought in my brain is it worth the headache? Is it worth the headache? I used to, didn't matter where we went, I was getting sweet tea. If they made it properly, I was getting sweet tea. And then he has another chart for after his second law. And then we move right into third law, making it easy. Because let's be honest, if it's hard, are we really going to do it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if the motivation is there, you might do it. And the easier something is, the more likely you are to do it and want to do it again. Because this is about building a habit. Habits happen more than one time.
Yes.
Just in case anybody was wondering, you need to string together enough successful attempts until the behavior is firmly embedded in your mind and you cross the habit line. It doesn't really matter how long it takes for it to become a habit, for it to become automatic. What matters is that you take the actions you need to take. Whether the action is fully automatic is of less importance. It's about, did you take the action to get there? And one of the books that I used to teach in my old job was The One Thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the premise of The One Thing is that it takes 66 days to develop a habit. And the whole point is based off of what your mantra is in your head is, what's the one thing that I can do such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary?
Mm.
And that's how we used to figure out which habit to start first. Now, since then, there are some people that can habits, which means you do more than one habit at a time, develop more than one habit at a time. There are some people that can't. For me, it depends on the habit. There are some habits that once I attempt to start it, if I attempt something else too soon, my brain goes, and I'm not doing anything. I'm back to square one on everything. There are some that after 4 or 5 days of doing it, I know that I'm good and I can start something else. I can habit stack. There are also that premise of when you get to 66 days, you develop this habit. However, I think in some people's brain, like with I know you have heard about, but there is the 75 hard challenge where you have a list of things you have to do every day for 75 days, right? And if you do them, then here's what happens though. I realize after talking to people who have done the 75 hard challenge, like personal friends of mine,
Yep.
they hit day 76. Screw it. I'm back to drinking alcohol. I'm back to not drinking all my water. I'm back to not exercising 2 times a day. They did it for the 77 days because that was the challenge. The challenge is over. They no longer have to do that. 66 days. You get to day 67. Oh my gosh, I don't have to do it anymore. Right? So to me, it's not about that anymore. It's not about the number of days or how long you do it. It's just about building habits that are sustainable. And for however long that is, until you don't even realize you're doing it, it's just become part of who you are, which is what he talks about. It's that you're building an identity for
Yeah.
yourself.
Say that. Yeah, exactly. If you're thinking about your identity and forming that, then it's doesn't matter about the days.
Right. The page 152, we're talking about the law of least effort. I have squiggled cloud highlighted this statement. And this is so true. I don't want to stop eating donuts. I don't want to. However, they're so good. However, my desire to wear that dress for my anniversary outweighs my desire to eat the donut. And this is what this little squiggly thing says. You don't actually want the habit yourself. You don't want to stop eating donuts. What you really want is what the outcome of the habit delivers. I go look hot, sexy in that dress in July, right? So you have to make sure that the outcome of the habit you're trying to build or break is bigger than the habit that you're building or breaking. Because if it's not bigger than, you're not going to get there. It's just, there's no motivation. It might work for a couple of days. It might work for 66 days. It might work for 75 days. It might work for 3 full months. But if your outcome did all you want to do is say you completed 75 hard and that was it, and now 3 months later, it is clearly evident that you stopped 75 hard because you've gained back the 45 pounds plus you lost in 75 days. Like you have to make sure that it's good to be able to say that you completed the challenge.
Yeah.
But did it change your mindset? Did it change anything for you or was it just a challenge? And that's what you have to do when you're developing your habits. Is it really something that you want to become your identity? Or is it just something that you're doing because someone said you couldn't? Or all your friends were doing it, so we're going to all do it together. And then we're all going to go have a margarita and chips and salsa when we're done. Like, actually, what?
I said, that sounds delightful. Younger.
I didn't drink if that's what I said. All right. Anything you want to say so far?
I liked his analogy. He says trying to pump up motivation to stick with a hard habit is like trying to force water through a bent water hose. You can do it, but it requires a lot of effort and increases the tension in your life. And don't do that. Make it easy.
Yeah.
So
Then he finishes off the chapter with redesign your life so the actions that matter most are also the actions that are easiest to do.
Yeah.
Make it hard. You're not going to do it. Make it easy, and you are. That's you sitting out your gym clothes in the bathroom, me setting them out on my dresser. If I put them in the bathroom, for me, it's who knows which bathroom I'm going to go to.
Oh, okay. I get
Who knows
it.
which bathroom? Like, I don't know, but when I wake up in the morning, I see my dresser.
Okay.
That's why that works for me.
I was wondering if
Yeah, I've got 2 bathrooms, so it just depends. It just depends. Like, if my husband's still sleeping, I'm not gonna go to that bathroom because the light shines right in his head. Like,
well,
it's right there. Then he talks about procrastinating and the 2-minute rule. Let me see if I can find where he says what the 2-minute rule is. Okay, here you go. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This is the part of making it easy. So, if you want to say you want to read a book a week,
mhm.
that's not the habit that you start with. The habit you start with is read 1 page a day, right? Start small. If you want to run a marathon, you'll start with 10 minutes. You're not going to start with a marathon. You make and this is what Fogg talked about in tiny habits. Keep them small and they build on each other and the point of mastering a habit is showing up. You can't master it if you don't actually do it.
Yeah,
It is better to do less than you had hoped for than do nothing at all.
that's a good quote. It really is.
So maybe you can't avoid the donut shop. Eat 1 donut, not 2.
Yeah.
Progress. Progress.
Or if I don't have an entire hour to write, I can still write for 5 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yes.
And for a while,
Yes.
I had a goal of it was 20. It had to be an odd number. It was like 20. When I say odd, as in not a whole, not 30 minutes, not an hour, but it was 28 minutes. That was my goal, was to get my 28 minutes in a day. And my brain latched onto that because that was, I don't know what the, the brain science is, but that number I latched onto and I was able to do that. And I will probably be bringing that back when I'm in the future. I want to, before we move too farther afield of that's chapter 13, how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. I love that's the chapter you're on. I mean,
Mhm.
that's it. I love a couple of things he said. Habits are automatic choices that influence the conscious decisions that follow that. So you do the stuff automatically and then you make conscious decisions with one is what without thought, one is with thought. And then he says, in this way, the habits you follow without thinking often determine the choices you make when you are thinking.
Yep.
And then the thing he says about decisive moments, really, I highlighted that too. I had a lot of it. Every day, there are a handful of moments that deliver an outsized impact. And he refers to those as your decisive moments. So that's like what you were saying with that one thing. Sometimes there's one thing you can do that will make everything else easier, or you won't have to do it. Sometimes there's a decisive moment in your day where you can make everything fall into place.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
very
every day could be different.
yeah.
Like every day, like I used to sit down at my office every morning, and that was the question I had to ask myself every morning. What's the one thing that I can do that makes everything else easier and necessary for today? Maybe not even for today, for this first half of my day. What's the thing I need to focus on? And sometimes that's what it's going to be to develop a habit. It's not necessarily going to be the big picture. It's going to be like for me right now with my writing, my goal is to finish part 3, which is the end of my book, right? I that's a big thing in my head. So right now my goal is to don't go a week without writing. And after 2.5 years of not writing, for me that works, right? So my next step will be don't go a day without sitting down for 10 minutes to write, right? So you start with a little and you get it down to where eventually it's going to be like I write 2 hours before I go to bed. Or after I journal in the morning, I write 2 hours before I XYZ. So it'll get there. But it's steps. And then he gives you some examples of habit shaping. And this is exactly what we just talked about. Exactly what we just talked about. Okay. I like the title of the next chapter. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. I like that.
Right.
And there's a chart. There's a chart. Do, 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 do. There's a chart. Do, 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 do. Sorry. Increase the friction, and she don't even have the option to act. Like not going to the donut shop before 5. If I don't get there before 5, I don't have an option. So I make sure I stay busy so I can't leave the house by 4:15 so I can get there by 5. And then he goes to the whole, this one is good for me. How to create a good habit and how to break a bad one. And he gives you all the breakdown of what he just talked about. All right. Anything so far? I'm on the fourth law.
For that one, no. I mean, I like the way the examples he gave, and I like how he broke out that chart for how to break a bad habit and basically reinforcing his first law, second law, third law, fourth law, make it satisfying. And then I like how he calls it the inversion. So it's basically the same thing. It's just the inversion of that law. So if the first law is make it obvious, the inversion of that, what's the opposite of that? That is make it invisible so that you don't see it.
Right.
Yeah, I just like the way he wrote that out.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The next one is the cardinal rule of behavior change. One of the first things he says is what is rewarded is repeated and what is punished is avoided. If I'm going to get a spanking, going into the pantry and getting a cookie, I didn't like that. So instead, I'm going to go ask my mom if I can have a cookie.
Mm.
And then she says yes, and I can get the cookie without being spanked. It's the same concept as an adult. I did not like the action that happened when I did the thing, so I'm not going to do the thing anymore.
Yeah. Was that Sandy? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Sandy. Occasionally, I don't know. We even closed the door. I don't know what she's barking. All right. Anything in this one that you want to talk about? Because we got to wrap this one.
Yeah. Nope. I did not have anything in that one. Did you have anything in the advanced tactics that you thought? Because he has a whole section called advanced tactics.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going with advanced tactics. Hang on. Let's see. The odds of success is to choose the right field of competition.
Yeah. That's what I have highlighted too.
Well, yes. Oh, here's the other thing I think is interesting. Okay. Michael Jordan's son.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't practice it playing basketball, it doesn't matter that his dad is Michael Jordan.
Right.
Genes do not determine. Your actions determine. Genes will help, but your actions determine. Until you work as hard as those you admire, don't explain away their success at luck.
Exactly. That's a really good one.
I have so many times where people will make comments about someone and how they're spending money or what they're wearing or, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. You don't know what they went through to get there.
Yes.
You don't know they did XYZ in order to be able to spend that money. Or why is she wearing that? Maybe she lost 200 pounds and she feels good right now. All you're seeing is what she looks like right now.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not luck. Things happen for us. It's a process. Occasionally luck is involved, but it's not, luck isn't what makes us successful. It's the work that makes us successful. And people are judgy.
You have to be prepared for luck. You don't you show up with the tools, with the practice, and that's when you get lucky. And people do that a lot with authors. Well, obviously she's a bestseller because she does this or she writes this kind of book. There's a lot more work that goes into it. So yeah, that quote you just read about not judging a person by their success because you don't know how much work went into it. You don't know how much work went into that person getting a book club and having a bestseller or being in the top 100 of the Amazon list.
I just saw an interview where they asked Neil is it Gaiman or Gaiman?
Amen.
What the difference is between his first draft and his second draft. And he basically said his hope is that his second draft makes him actually sound like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's how bad the first draft is. He wants the second draft to make it sound like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. That's where I am with
And
my
he's highly successful.
Yeah. I am getting my current draft ready to go to the editor, and I'm basically going all the way through it and finding these little things and running it through the pro writing aid and all the tools so that when I hand it to a professional editor, they think I knew what I was doing. They think that I am not
Yes.
would have just walked off the street and said, I want to write a book, that I actually knew like things about the act structure and conflict and promise of the premise and also punctuation. It's like,
Oh my gosh. Punctuation, please.
Okay. One other thing I want to say at the end of this, the Goldilocks rule, how to stay motivated in life and work, is if you only do the work when it's convenient or exciting, then you'll never be consistent enough to achieve remarkable results. You got to do the work whether you want to or not in order to get the results that you.
yeah. Yeah, I know many writers who were saying they worked through COVID, they were miserable, they were sick, but they had a deadline and they did the work. And then they got a bestseller. They did the work.
Yeah. This isn't that Cinderella where a fairy godmother is going to come out and go, "Boppity-boo," and it's just going to happen. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. Sometimes you got to lose a glass slipper too. And the other thing I want to say that's not, it might be in this either one of these books, is sometimes you're building a habit and then when you realize that it's not working for you, it's not going to give you the result that you want. Don't feel like you have to keep doing it because you said you were going to do it. Don't build a habit that later you're going to have to try to break, right? So if you're starting to build a habit and you realize that it's not getting the result that you want, change your system to get to the goal, which means you have to work a different habit. If your system is right and your goal is right, what habit do you need to change in order to get the thing done? Because I've tried multiple things to drink more water and to get my walk in. I'm now on whatever option. It worked really well for me this morning. I'm hoping it works again tomorrow. I'll give it a week. If it doesn't work, I'll find another thing that works because I'm not going to beating myself up for not developing the habit if I'm not giving myself the right habit to develop.
Right.
So, anything else you want to add?
Nothing else. If you have not read, bought, borrowed from the library, Atomic Habits by James Clear, I recommend it. So make sure you run out and get that. And I know people who read it every year. This is my second or third go around with it. So it's one of those books. And this was my first time reading. You'll see that in the previous video, the first time reading that week, the Tiny Habits. And I really liked Tiny Habits. I don't think I could, it depends on your brain, which one you would like better. Maybe you want both.
They both have important themes.
They both have important things.
They don't contradict each other. They just look at it differently.
Yep. So that's all we have for Atomic Habits.
Except, like, subscribe.
Do please like and subscribe and tell your author friends about us so they can share in the wackiness and the awkward pauses. Bye.
Bye.